Got lots to talk about today. It's the end of the year. Time flies when you're having fun. So, we're going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff today. We're going to talk about the 2025 payments, when you expect your payments. So we're going to talk about that awesome, beautiful 2.5% COLA. Just a tad bit of sarcasm there. Whose fault is it? Biden, Trump, whoever. So, we'll talk about the little scam that's going to happen several times this year. I've already seen it happen once so far. We're going to talk about Social Security customer service continuing to deteriorate and why. A new Social Security online application, SSI. We're going to talk about the stimulus, $1,400 stimulus from the IRS, the WEP GPO, the Social Security Fairness Act that just passed, and misdirection in terms of raising taxes, trying to save Social Security. So we'll talk about all of that today. I'll try to make it as brief as humanly possible, as brief as I can make it, but because I want to get into your questions. So at the end, make sure you subscribe and like and all that kind of stuff, because at the end of these videos I always do a live Q&A. If you're watching this later in a recording, then unfortunately you missed a live Q&A, so make sure you subscribe. I do these pretty much almost every day, since my semi-retirement from Social Security Administration. Oh, if you're new to my channel, let me put them up here. My name is Ed Weir. I ran the third busiest Social Security office in the country. And in my semi-retirement, I'm helping you all get everything you're entitled to from all things Social Security, retirement, uh, spouses benefits, survivor benefits, disability, Medicare, Medicaid, and I'm also trying to make sure, with y'all's help, that Social Security stays around here for a long, 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 long time for our kids, and there's no cuts and everything. So we're going to try to work on that. Okay, so let's get back into it, and we'll go down one by one. All right, so we've got payments coming up. Let me move this out here, and the new payments for 2025. And there's a lot of videos out there that is buying. I think there's kind of AI generated. They're trying to get people to click and stuff like that. So they're talking about, oh, the checks for next month, the checks for next month are this. Here's when to expect your pay. You don't have to watch all those videos. Just go in. I put the link. This is the schedule of Social Security benefits. Let me make it a little bit bigger here. Um, this is what you can go online and get, and you just print it off. Super, super simple. I've got a link in the description of my YouTube. Just go to the YouTube channel there and go into the description, and you'll see a link to this. Print it off, put it on your refrigerator, whatever the case may be, and it'll tell you exactly. It's kind of a strange. You've got different dates. Obviously, if you're just receiving just like regular retirement benefits or spouse benefits or survivor benefits type thing, usually how they do it is based on your date of birth. If you were born in the first 10 days of the month, you get your check on the second Wednesday of the month. If you were born on the second 10 days of the month, you get your check on the third Wednesday of the month, and then the fourth Wednesday. If you're receiving SSI, usually get that on the first. And there's a little bit of changes based on if you've been getting, Social Security for a long, long, long time and you're part of the old system, then you're kind of part of the older system. But for new people coming on, that's kind of how it works. And I'll talk about kind of the scam that goes out there, kind of super super clickbait. We'll talk about that in a bit here. All right, so the January check will include that 2.5% cola. It's not ideal. And whose fault is it? Is it Biden's fault? Is it Trump's fault? You say, Ed, Trump's not even in the office yet, but he'll be sworn in January 20th, and 2025 will be his presidency. And during his presidency, it's 2.5%. So people always say, so if it was like 20%, then next year people would say, oh, President Trump gave us 20%. No, it's not political at all. The COLA calculation was decided to take it out of the political realm in the early 1970s. So before then, Congress would have to vote on it every year. Okay, we'll do a 2.5 or a 3.5 or 7% or something like that. And they decided to take it out of the political realm and just say, hey, we'll let the bean counters, the accountants, come up with a calculation based on the inflation, so that for the third quarter of last year versus the third quarter of this year, how much did a basket of goods increase? And this year it increased by 2.5%. And I'm sure a lot of people out there says it didn't increase by 2.5% for me. And there's a lot of people, unfortunately, because the Medicare Part B premium went up from $174.70 to $185. the 2.5% is pretty much a wash, which is unfortunate. I've got a video for that. I've watched. Check out. Please check out my video on. I talk about 50 different ways to live on Social Security as best as you possibly can. And so check out the video. It's called I was about to show the video there. It's living on Social Security alone. I've made a few videos like that, so make sure you check out the one with that title. And hopefully, there's something in the 50 programs that I deal with that might be able to help you out. So please check out that. And if you're good, remember this channel is not about you. This is channel partly about you, but about all those people around you, your friends, relative, coworkers, lady down the street, whatever. I'm providing this information not only for you, but for all those people in your community. So if you see something, hear something that might benefit someone that you know, please, please, please share. And again, I do the live Q&A, so bring them. And because there's always exceptions, the exceptions, the exceptions. Okay, so the 2.5%, it's not anybody's. It's in terms of the president, they have nothing to do with it. It's just a calculation. The calculation is, I believe, is political in this sense. And people say, what is it, Ed? Is it political or not political? The current way it's calculated, the 2.5 and the 8.7, it's not political. But politicians need to go in there and adjust how the Department of Labor Statistics make that calculation. So they're using a basket of goods for younger people. They should use a basket of goods for older people, which also includes more healthcare. But so we need to definitely try to get in that. If that was the case, then maybe for next year, 2025, it might have been 3% or 3.5%. Again, not, wish it was a lot more, but at least it'd be a little more than it is. Okay, all right. Here's a scam that I want to bring to your attention. So let me throw this up here so you can see it a little bit better. So, for instance, in May of 2025, you see the little brown circle there on the 1st in May, and also the little brown circle in February. That is for SSI payments, supplemental security income. It's a welfare based program. So, those people that are receiving those benefits are going to get paid twice in May. And you can see in August, they're going to get paid twice in August. Not that they're getting two checks, it's just that the end of the month falls on a Saturday or Sunday. So the Department of Treasury is going to cut the checks a couple of days early on that Friday. So what happens, what you're going to see in May is you're going to see a whole bunch of social media people talking about, you're going to get two checks. Click this button so you can get two checks. Oh, this is great. You're going to get an extra $1,000 this month. Awesome. Click, 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 click. And then you're going to see the exact same thing in August. And I think there's another one in October. So you're going to see that about 3 or 4 times next year about, hey, there's extra checks this month. No, there's not an extra check. It's just the following month's check comes a couple of days early. So the people that do that, stop. Why? Because what happens is when you do that, then people call up the Social Security Administration and say, hey, I heard there's a second check. When am I getting my second check? And Social Security is already at a 50-year low in terms of staffing. And, they're going to this reservation only system, which I think is a terrible, terrible idea. It's like, Social Security is like a 5-star restaurant. And I blame politicians because they're not giving Social Security the resources that we paid into. We told politicians, okay, we're paying these FICA taxes, but when we want our money back, we want our money back and we want help getting our money back. And part of that, like 1% of what we paid into it, essentially goes to getting that help. But politicians refuse to provide that help, so we need to do something. And now that it's at the worst it's ever been. Reservation only system. They've been talking about that. They were when I was the district manager of my office, one of the largest offices in the country. They were always talking about that. Hey, Ed, why don't you try a reservation? Kind of the appointment only type thing for a little bit. And I said, that's a terrible idea, but okay. Well, they always wanted us to be the kind of the test, the guinea pig office, because we would try anything. And sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. That one was a complete failure because, I could go into the details, but it's not a good system. It's a terrible system. They should reconsider it. But anyway, so starting January 6th, you need a reservation. If there's kind of a dire need, if you're homeless or something like that, they're supposed to allow you in. So if there's people out there that are homeless or vets, disabled vets, and there's very few exceptions, um, if you go to an office and they won't help you, please go to your politicians, your senator, both senators, and your House representative, whoever represents your particular district. Go to their websites, and there's a button there that says, I need help with a federal agency. Click on that button and say, hey, buddy, lady, what are you doing to provide customer service? Help so I can get my benefits. Why are you stopping me from getting my benefits by restricting access to my benefits, restricting access for help to get my benefits, and submit that and say, again, these politicians, they don't care about what happens nationally, they just care about local votes. So if a bunch of y'all jumped in there, then yeah, it would help tremendously, please. So, all right. So there's also the simplified SSI application form that Social Security just rolled out. So it's SSI, again, is supplemental security income. They've been working on this for about 15 years. We did a pilot in our office where we tried it and said, okay, here's what needs to be fixed. And I think that was like 10 years ago, and they finally got around to fixing it. So they finally rolled it out. So if you're looking to file for SSI, and what is SSI? Supplemental Security Income. It's a welfare-based program the Social Security administers. It's celebrating its 50th year this year with Social Security. And it's low income, and you can get it based on disability or aged. So if you know someone out there that's aged, and Social Security defines aged as 65 and older, and if they're struggling to make ends meet, and essentially they make under $1,000 from Social Security and they don't have any other income or resources, tell them to contact Social Security and apply for SSI Aged. And then there's a whole bunch of other programs that they can get help from Medicaid, paying for the Part B premium. That's called Medicare Savings Program. That'll put an extra $185 in their account. And yeah, so there's so many. Make sure you check out my video on 100 or 50 ways. There are actually about 100 because I did the video and I detailed 50 ways to, not leave your lover, but 50 ways to improve your life. And because this community we have here is such an awesome community, y'all have added different stuff in the description where you're like, well, in my area and in Cleveland, Ohio, we also have this other food bank. In Houston, Texas, we also have this. So there's probably about 100 different things there. So yes, if you watch the video, if you see any other things in your area, please include it in there. Okay, what else do we have here? The IRS $1,400 stimulus. I'm always hesitant to tell people about stimulus. Well, again, this is the same type of thing. There's so much clickbait out there, and people are talking about stimulus all the time, but it never comes. And I always say, never trust uh, a stimulus type of YouTube or social media, anything, and unless you see this picture here. So this is when you know a stimulus is correct, is when the president of the United States stands up in front of the flags and in front of a podium and says, "Hey, I'm such an awesome person," and they break their arm trying to pat themselves on the back that they're giving you an extra $400 or $600 or whatever the case may be. Until you see that, don't believe it. But in this particular situation, we don't have anything like that. But what we do have, oops, I lost my, is the IRS, and I've got the link. All right, lost the link there. Okay, but I've got the link in the description, and it's basically the IRS based on your 2021 taxes. This is automatic. So if you did not get that stimulus check 3 years ago, then there's about 1 million people that didn't get the stimulus check, anywhere from $1,000 to $1,400. And if you didn't get it, the IRS is going to go ahead and give it to you. So you don't have to do anything. The only thing you have to do is if you didn't file your 2021 taxes. If you're just a few months or a few years late filing your 2021 taxes, I would suggest you go ahead and do that as soon as possible, if not sooner, so you can get that extra $1,000 plus there. But other than that, you don't have to do anything. And again, the clickbait out there about a stimulus package. There was another one about 3 or 4 months ago that went around that went viral, $600, $600. And again, this ruins customer service again because the Social Security employees, you know, they have to sit around and answer calls all day. And it's basically, there's no $600. There is no $600. There is no $600. There is no second check this month. There is no second check this month. And that takes away from, that's why I tell these people to stop, because that takes away from those people, very few people, helping people with disability or survivor benefits or retirement or signing up for Medicare. So, social media people out there trying to get all this clickbait, stop it, please. All right. And now there's the a Social Security's Fairness Act that it looks like the president just might sign. We don't know for sure. I just did a video on this a couple of days ago, torqued off a lot of people, but I'm an ex-Marine Corps sergeant, so hey, it is what it is. Um, Basically, there's about 2.7, 2.8 million government employees, predominantly that worked at local and state government. There are some federal, but the system changed for federal employees. These are mostly state and local employees that are going to get possibly a whole bunch of more money. And I completely disagree with the Social Security Fairness Act. I don't think it's fair. Um, but I guess I lost that battle. And if you are one of these government employees, what happens is when President Biden signs it, then it goes to the Social Security Administration. The Social Security Administrations they have to take their lawyers and they have to kind of figure out to define it. It's actually the law that passed is only about 2 or 3 pages, so the lawyers shouldn't have a very long time trying to figure it out. And then they have to give it to the computer programmers, so the computer programmers can figure out how to get those checks out to people. So we're probably looking January, February, or March, and for it. And I challenge. This is a challenge. I'm throwing down the gauntlet to any of the politicians. So in the House, there was 136 Republicans and 191 Democrats who voted for this Social Security Fairness Act, which is unfair. In the Senate, 76 people out of 100 voted yes for it. Out of that, we're looking at about 27 Republicans, and the other were Democrats. And so this was bipartisan support for the Social Security, I would call it unfair act. And I challenge any of those politicians. So we're talking Schumer, Cassidy from Louisiana, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, Lindsey Graham, again, bipartisan. I challenge any of them to come on my YouTube channel live and I will debate you. And we'll debate whether the Social Security Fairness Act was fair or it was unfair. So that's my challenge. So reach out to me, ed@mygovexpert.com. And you can reach out to me. I've got my email address in my YouTube channel and stuff, and I'd be more than happy to debate you live. So bring it on. I doubt anybody will accept my challenge, but hey, we'll see. All right. And another thing, we're also coming close. We've been talking about that for decades at the end of the Social Security Trust Fund. And one of the problems is that we've got the end of the Social Security Trust Fund fatigue because we've been talking about that for decades. And the problem is, I blame the Social Security actuary, and it's not that person's fault. But the Social Security actuary, by law, has to project Social Security future up to 75 years. And come on, if you take any company, NVIDIA, Apple, or Motorola, or IBM, I'm talking about old companies now, for instance. Anyway, if you project them 75 years in the future, then yeah, you're probably going to have some issues. But same thing with Social Security. But now it's down to the wire, and now the cuts are going to be happening very, very soon. So if nothing happens, well, actually, if the president, by the time you see this, if he signs the Social Security Fairness Act, then instead of cuts of 2034 by 21%, we're looking at about a 6 month to a year earlier of cuts because there's about $190 billion going to these government employees. So we're looking at probably about, instead of 21, maybe 21 and a half, or maybe up to 22% cuts because all of this money going to these people. If the next president gets some of the things he's talking about, then we're talking about more cuts, probably sooner, 33% cuts by 2031. And again, I always provide my references. So in the YouTube description, you can see exactly the numbers. So Social Security Trustees Report, the Congressional Budget Office that talks about all this. So what we need to do is we need to do something. We need to act now. We basically have, I think our window is the next year or two. If we don't do something in the next year or two, then we're done. Then we're cuts across the board. So it's imperative that we do something immediately, if not sooner. And my recommendation is we raise the FICA cap. The FICA cap, if you make under $176,100, you pay Social Security taxes on every dollar you make. If you make over 176,100, you stop paying taxes. You no longer pay Social Security FICA tax on any of that money. So if you're making $50,000 a year, you're paying it on all. 6.2%, and your employer pays the next 6.2%. If you're making $5 million a year, you're paying FICA tax of point zero point was it 0.43. So very, very small amount. So all we need to do is raise the FICA cap. And one of the things that is mischaracterized by politicians, yes, politicians mischaracterize things. Go figure. Who would have thunk it? Let me put up my sarcasm alert. Yes. Anyway, but their misdirection is like, oh, your solution is just raise taxes. No, well, not on the majority of people that have to pay FICA tax on all the money they make. Raise taxes on you and your buddies. Yes, sorry. If we had to pay FICA tax on every dollar we made for the past 40 or 50 years, maybe y'all should pay FICA tax on every dollar you make for the next 40 or 50 years. And then we'll figure out another, more fair system later if you so desire. So, okay, so that I went through, did I miss anything? I think I went through everything. And now let's get into all of your questions. We got lots of questions, and I'll answer as many as I possibly can in the next 40 minutes. If you're just here for the breaking news of the day, then have an awesome day. But if you want to stick around for the questions, please feel free to do so. Um, Angela, why am I taxed at 30% on survivor benefits when I live in Australia? If I was living in the United States, would I be taxed the same? Yeah, United States, I'm not, I avoid taxes at all possible. I've been trying to cancel my subscription with the IRS for decades, and I do a terrible job at it. But I tried, I didn't work for the IRS, but I know that United States, if you're a U.S. citizen or, yeah, they get you. It doesn't matter where you are. So that's anyway, but I don't do taxes. Hi, I'm 60, just received SSDI payment with automatically Medicare Part A and Part B enrolled. If I decline Part B, will I continue getting SSDI? Yes, absolutely. So Social Security Disability Insurance. So number one, congratulations on finally getting approved. When I used to take disability claims, I've taken hundreds of thousands of them. We used to tell them, everybody at that time used to say, okay, we'll go ahead and send it up and start working on it. You should get an answer on your disability claim within 3 to 6 months. Now they're saying 6 to 9 months if you're lucky. And some people having to go through the entire, they filed, denied, file the reconsideration, denied, go to the administrative law judge and maybe approved or denied, but that's a 2 year process. So that sounds exactly what happened to you because you just got approved and you just got Medicare Part A and Part B. So you probably went all the way to the administrative law judge stage, and the administrative law judge says, oh, yeah, we should have approved you from day one, which was 2 years ago. So that's why your Medicare is starting immediately, because for SSDI, your Medicare starts after being on SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance, for 24 months. Okay, so to answer your question, if you decline Part B, yes, you will continue to get SSDI. Won't Doesn't affect your SSDI at all. However, if you decline it and you don't have credible coverage, and what is credible coverage? That you have health insurance from current work, either yours or your spouse's. So you're receiving disability, so you're probably not working and probably don't have health insurance from your own work, so it might be your spouse's. So if you're receiving health insurance from your spouse's current work, not Cobra or the Affordable Care Act, not a retirement plan, but current work, and that employer has 20 or more employees on the group health plan, then you don't have to sign up for Part B. But if you don't have that and you decline Part B, then you will have to pay a penalty. 10% for every 12 months you did not have Part B when you were supposed to. And there's a Part D penalty, the prescription drug plan. There's a penalty on that, 1% for every month you did not have Part D, as in David. So I would definitely check it out. It's probably an issue of money, $185. You don't want to pay it out, but I would definitely check it out. That's why I partner with Chapter. I help people with all things Social Security, retirement, and survivor benefits, and disability, and SSI, and Medicaid, and Medicare Part A and Part B. But Part C and Part D are private companies, so that's why I partnered up with these guys here. They're doing a phenomenal job. Reach out to them, and maybe they can, if it's a money issue, they can see what they can do. You might check out Medicaid through the state, apply for Medicaid, and see if they'll be able to help you out. So, all right, next question. I am 61, draw SSDI in Oklahoma, have an 8-year-old that draws a whopping $18 check. He will be moving to Kansas to live with my daughter in January. She will be given guardianship. Can she draw this check? She can't draw the check, but she can be the representative payee for that check. $18. If you're on SSDI, unless you have like 10 kids, because a child under the age of 18 can receive benefits on the parent's record. If the parent is receiving retirement benefits or disability benefits, the child can receive benefits uh, under the age of 18, or if they became disabled before the age of 22. And what it is, it's 50% of your full benefit amount. So $18 doesn't sound correct, but there is what's called a family max. There's a maximum that can be paid out on anybody's record. So if you have like 10 kids and there's, $1,800 or something, and it'd be $1,800 divided by 10 kids. But yeah, I don't understand the $18. I'm not sure how that's the only thing you get. That doesn't sound like an amount from Social Security. Yeah, that would be strange. It might be from someone else, from someplace else. But okay, if it is from Social Security, then guardianship, not necessarily. It's called a representative payee. So you can appoint your daughter in Kansas to be the representative payee. You can keep the same bank account or change bank accounts or whatever the case may be. So because the child is 8 years old, then anytime, a missing check, or you want to change your address or whatever the case may be, she can call as the representative payee of your son, daughter, son. Yeah. Son. Because you are the representative payee now. So you just need to change the representative payee. So it's very, very easy. Well, it used to be easy when Social Security offices were open, but reach out to your politicians. So, let's see. Where the cola ain't right, it's wrong. 2.5 and enough. What, it's like $40. Yeah, it's definitely. If the FICA cap is raised, will the wealthy receive higher benefits, or does the percentage adjustments take care of that? All right, excellent question. Thank you, Sharon. Because Sharon knows that your Social Security benefits are determined based on this formula, which gives you a percentage. If you're a low income earner throughout your life, you get about 90%. And higher wage earners get like 30% of what they paid into Social Security. And that's one of the things about the Social Security Fairness Act. It gives people that made a lot of money through their life essentially a welfare benefit. But I won't go off on that tangent until I get a politician to debate me. But in the description, in the YouTube description below, I have the Social Security Actuaries report, and they said, hey, if the FICA cap is raised and benefits for the wealthy are not increased equivalently, if they're just basically stayed the same, then that's going to solve 73%. So the short answer is the people that made a lot of money through their life are already receiving less as a percentage, 35 or 30 versus 90 or 50. And so we just add another percentage. There's 3 percentages, 90, 30%, and 15%. So I just say we just add another one, 0.00001%. And we name a dog park after them or something. So again, if we had to pay Social Security FICA tax on all our money for 40 years, then hey, yeah. E-Truth, appreciate you fighting for us. Is there a grace period to pay your Part B and supplemental insurance and Part D before being dropped or penalized? First payment starting January. Um, Ooh, yeah, those are different things. If you have a supplemental plan, that's through a private company, and if you have a Medicare supplement like a Plan G or a Plan N, once you have those, they cannot cancel you unless they don't get your payment. So the yeah, it's probably different for them. Part B, um, if you're receiving Social Security benefits, that's taken out of your benefits automatically, the Part B and the Part D. But I would reach out to Chapter and see if they can help you out in terms of grace period, because you're talking about three different things there, and you don't want to lose it because if you lose your Part B, then there's only certain times of the year that you can re-sign up for Part B, and that's actually January, February, March. So you might be good there. So yeah, reach out to Medicare, Chapter Medicare, and they'll check to see what you can do in yours. Um, Laura, you can make $1 billion after your fraud. Dr. Ed always say that. Yes, I exaggerate. Yes, once you hit your full retirement age, then you can go back. You can go back to making $1 billion a month, and it does not affect your Social Security check negatively at all. It will probably increase it. Anytime you continue to work after your full retirement age, if that's one of your high 35 years of earnings, then Social Security will automatically recalculate your benefits. So it doesn't matter whether you're 65, well, actually, 75, 85, 70 years old, or whatever the case may be. If you're currently working and once you file your taxes, then the IRS notifies Social Security and says, "Hey, this person made $1 billion or $80,000 last year," and the Social Security computer system looks at it and says, "Oh, this is one of that person's high 35 years," and they will recalculate your benefits and give you some more money. So that's always a beautiful thing. But it takes a little bit longer because, number one, you have to file your taxes until you do that. Social Security doesn't know how much you made the previous year. Oh, and somebody asked me in the comments before I began, is this wages? Is this a net income or anything before or after taxes? In terms of wages, it's gross wages. If you own a business, then it's net income is what we're talking about in terms of annual earnings limit. Because if you retire early, then you are limited to the amount of money you can make. All right. Let's see here. I'm jumping around. We got tons of questions. Let me see. You're wrong about telling them we paid. Now we want our money. They tell you will pay. Oh, okay, I'm not sure what. It sounds like. Yeah, those 3% that are going to get extra benefits there. Um, President Biden has not signed the Social Security bill. Pocket veto. I certainly hope so. Again, I'm more than willing to challenge. I challenge, leaders, any representatives, senators, the people that spearheaded this at the NEA, the National was it Education Association, Educational so yeah, any of those people, if they're willing to come on here, and I'd be more than happy to debate them on the unfairness of it. Can I have my dependent children's monthly SSDI auxiliary benefits deposited into a family checking account to pay household bills? I am the representative payee for them. Yes. Um, for SSDI, yeah, you can. Yeah, you can put it pretty much in any bank account. If these are your, natural children, adopted children, then it's Social Security really doesn't care. It's you'll receive a representative payee report once a year, and it'll say, probably coming up here in January, February, you'll receive a report that says, "Hey, we gave you $13,000 for this child. What did you do with it?" And it's super easy form to fill out. Don't sweat it. You just write down there, I stuck food in their mouth and I put a roof over their head, and oh yeah, I bought them a PlayStation or something. So yeah, Social Security doesn't care. The reason they sent out those forms is because there have been historically, the reason they were started was a very tragic reason, of this old lady used to bring in homeless people and then kind of bury them in the backyard and take their checks. Yeah, that was part of my Halloween episode. But anyway, but if you're the natural parents adopted, then yeah, Social Security figures you're taking care of the welfare of the child. But if for, fosters, or if you're what happens is if you've got a divorce type situation and one spouse says, "Oh, the money wasn't going to the child. The child's been homeless and is living in the woods out back for the past 12 months." And then they can use that as evidence to prosecute that particular person or get the money back. So, but if you're the natural parents and the child is being taken care of, don't sweat it. And you can put the money, any money, you're paying rent and food and all that kind of good stuff. All right. I'm really jumping around here. We got lots of questions. Can I start piggybacking on my husband's Social Security account at 64, or do I have to wait until I'm 67 at full retirement age? Your current husband, as soon as your current husband starts receiving benefits, if your current husband is already receiving benefits and you're receiving benefits, then you should file for benefits on his record immediately. But he has to file for benefits. He has to be receiving benefits, and then you have to file for benefits on your own record, and then you file for benefits on his record. But his benefit has to be his full benefit amount, has to be twice your full benefit amount. And you're like, Ed, what's this full thing? If you receive early retirement at 62, your benefit amount, your check is reduced by about 30%. And that's not the number that Social Security looks at when they look at full benefit amount. They look at what's called the PIA, the primary insurance amount. That's the amount you would have received at your full retirement age. So you always look at those amounts. I know there's millions and tens of millions of dollars being lost out there because people look at the wrong numbers. So please subscribe and like and share this video, this channel, so more people can get this information. There's so many people losing money. Let me talk about. Make a note so I talk about this one as well. But you look at the PIA and you're like, but I don't know the PIA. Just call Social Security. Unfortunately, be on hold for 3 hours. Hopefully, you get through and say, hey, me and my husband are here. Can I get money off this dude? And they'll check the actual numbers. And if they say, oh yeah, you could have got an extra $100 the last 2 or 3 years, then they'll set up an appointment and get you that extra money. So you always look at the full benefit amount. All right. So here's another thing that a lot of people are missing money on is because you're currently married, your spouse has to file for benefits, has to be starting receiving benefits for you to receive benefits as a spouse on that person's record because you're currently married. What happens is there's hundreds of millions of dollars out there being lost because people think that's the same when you divorce. That's not the case. If you are at least 62 years old and you start to file for retirement benefits on your own record, and then you were married to someone for 10 years, at least 10 years, and you've been divorced from that person for at least 2 years, the final divorce is 2 years, and you can get benefits on that ex-spouse's record, even if they have not started benefits on their own record. The only stipulation is they have to be at least 62 years old. And so people are sitting around there twiddling their thumbs, waiting for their ex-spouse to file for benefits. Have you filed for benefits? Because if I get benefits on your record, then it's added to my record, a couple of $300. And they say, no, I'm not filing. And it's like, oh, that, my ex-husband or wife is just to spite me is not collecting Social Security. Doesn't matter. As long as they're 62, you can file for benefits on their record. And it's called the independently entitled divorced spouse benefits. And yes, this is the government. So there's a long super title. IEDS, independently entitled divorced spouse benefits. So if you know anybody, say, your neighbor or something is struggling and says, hey, weren't you married? Why don't you receive? Oh yeah, they haven't filed yet. Oh, well, you owe me a dinner because I'm about to make your life a lot better. So you call up Social Security, but I have to warn you that the staffing at Social Security is terrible, and unfortunately, uh, because the staffing is so terrible, they're not spending as much time as they need to on training because they're just trying to answer the calls. And I tell a lot of people about this, and they call the local Social Security office, and then they come back here during the live Q&A and said, Ed, you're an idiot. I went to the Social Security office, and I called the Social Security office, and they said there's no such thing as independently entitled divorce spouse benefits. And so then I have to provide the reference. And I am going to put the reference in chat. At the bottom of the chat, I just put the Social Security reference for independently entitled divorced spouse benefits. So if somebody tells you that there's no such thing and that your ex-spouse has to start receiving benefits, then you tell them that's a great opinion you have, but here's the reference I have. So all right. Let's see. Is it better to have a personal meeting with Social Security staff when I turn 70 in 2025, as my wife and disabled son will be taking for my Social Security payment, or do it in line with each of us? In your particular case, if it was just you filing for benefits on your own record, you can just do it online. Super, super simple. And particularly if you've already received, if you already started your Medicare at 65, that means you're already in the system and everything. And it's super, super easy to turn on the money. But in your particular case, because you have a wife and your disabled son and everything, so it looks as though your disabled son is probably going to get benefits on your record. It's called an auxiliary child or a disabled adult child. If that child is over the age of 18, then they will have to unfortunately go through the bureaucratic paperwork to confirm that the child was in fact disabled before the age of 22. And you're like, of course they were. They've been receiving SSI since they were 16. They still have to go through the bureaucratic paperwork, unfortunately. And then your wife, if she's no longer working or reduced her work or something, she can get what's called auxiliary child and care benefits. So write that down. AUXCIC, auxiliary child in care benefits. So if the child is disabled, became disabled before the age of 22, a spouse that is limiting their work can receive benefits, 50% of your benefit amount. Um, so yes, I would, in your particular case, I would call now. Well, depends when you turn 70, but I would call about 2 or 3 months before you turn 70 and schedule a phone or an in-office appointment. Unfortunately, yeah, some offices are not doing in-office appointments. I always love in-office appointments. I like talking to people directly, but I would talk to a human being. So Lieutenant Dan. Hey, Lieutenant Dan. I am 60, retired with a pension, now disabled, collecting SSDI for me and my minor son. I haven't had COLA on my pension for 16 years. I deserve my full Social Security benefits, my other work orders. Yeah, everybody. Yeah, that's it's just technically impossible for you not to get the COLA. Everybody gets the COLA when the Department of Labor Statistics determines the COLA, the 2.5%. They tell Social Security, okay, it's going to be 2.5%, and the programmers go in there and they multiply all 70 million people receiving the retirement benefits, disability, survivors, spouse benefits, and they add 2.5% on there. So it's impossible that maybe you didn't notice, but yeah, everybody receives the 2.5 or the COLA. I'm collecting Social Security and my spouse is 64. Can he collect spousal benefits and wait on his Social Security until full? No, that's a strategy. It's called file and suspend, that stopped in 2016. So you're talking about your current spouse. So the lower earning spouse. One of the strategies is it's called a split strategy. So you have the lower earning spouse. If they're entitled to benefits, they go ahead and file for benefits, start that money, and the higher earning spouse delays and continues to work and increases their benefit amount until they're full retirement age or 70 or whatever the case may be. And then once the higher earning spouse starts benefits, then the lower earning spouse files a spouse claim, as long as the spouse is just as every other spouse, living spouse. um, your benefits have to be less than half of your spouse's in order to get benefits. So all right, let's see. My husband and I go to Mexico for winter months and said we can't apply for SSI. SSI is the welfare-based program, and if you're spending winter months in Mexico and probably may have some money there, and so not sure you're going to be eligible for SSI, a welfare-based program. But if you actually are, you have low income, the max you can get on SSI this year is $943. And if you get $1,000 from your regular Social Security, that means you can't get SSI because one offsets the other. But in terms of receiving SSI and living outside the United States, you have to come back in the States every 6 months and do a reporting. So Let's see. Dr. Ed, I am so grateful you tell us exactly how it is. I'm 85 years old and I won't be on Social Security too much longer, but those coming after me will suffer if Social Security is not fixed. Thank you so much. Wow. Talking about Peggy, awesome. Looking out for other people. And no, you're going to be another, you're going to have to put up with me for another 20 years because I'm going to continue to do this for another 20 years and you're going to be here for another 105 years old. So yeah, we'll be here together and we'll keep one day at a time, right? Every day above ground is a beautiful day. But thank you for the sentiment. I appreciate it. My SSI is $627. They took $300 because they say that I got help so I wouldn't be homeless. How can I get my regular $943 a month, please? All right. So it depends on what type of help we're talking about. Social Security, finally, after decades, they changed the law for SSI. Before, earlier this year, if you're on SSI, the welfare-based program, if somebody was nice and gave you some money for food or something like that, Social Security would actually take that from your SSI check and say, "Hey, you got a food subsidy." They essentially stopped that. Starting in September, they did the same thing with rent. So if you're staying at a friend's house or a relative's house or something, Social Security used to hold that against you and say, "Hey, you're staying at your mom's house, and if your mom rented that room out, it would be like $400. So we're going to hold that $400 against you." So it kind of disincentivized people from helping people out. It was crazy. So in September, they ended that. So I'm not sure about where that $300 came from, but if it came from rent or food, they shouldn't hold that against you. I would reach out to them and say, "Hey, y'all know the law changed and this shouldn't be held out against me." So definitely, definitely. Oh, Stephanie, 9.99. Thank you. Appreciate it, Stephanie. I appreciate it. Yeah, that's my coffee IV for the day. All right, let's see what else we got here. I just it just this is a one man operation here. I just click on whatever pops up and then I answer the question and hopefully there's a question. All right. Hey Tom, I will file for Social Security in February. 69 years old. Have coverage for health with my spouse's company health plan. When I decline Part B, do I have to have proof documents to upload, or do I just decline Part B? Yep, you just decline it. Social Security doesn't care. However, when you stop receiving health insurance from your spouse's current work, that's when you have to provide documents. So it's the 40B and the 564. And I've done a few videos on that, but yeah. So a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years from now, when you stop working, all you have to do is one of those forms, the 564, you take down to her HR and they fill it out and they says, yes, Tom, is it Tom, right? Tom has had health insurance from current work since he turned 65 years old, so don't penalize him. So, yep, you don't have to do anything now. You just decline. But there is it depends on. Um, so, okay, you're 69 years old, so you do have to fill out a form. It's 1763 to decline it, and there's a long statement on there that says, "I understand that by declining this, and da da da, and I will be penalized if I don't have health insurance and all that kind of good stuff." Yeah. So to decline it, you just decline it. Yep. But you don't have to provide any other proof until you actually re-sign up again. So I paid into Social Security for 25 years before taking the government job from which I retired that deprived me of full Social Security benefits based on what I paid in. Incorrect. I will benefit from the Social Security Fairness Act justly. What they're probably, as a majority of people, you will receive a welfare type benefit. You will receive a higher percentage than other people that work the same amount of money and earn the same amount of money. So let's say you made $5,000 average throughout your life, then you'll get a 50% return on your investment on what you paid into Social Security. You maybe might get 90%, and that 90% was intended to go for low income poor people. And should you get that? I would argue no, but I'd be more than happy to debate. Yeah. I am a mover overseas and cannot use Part B Medicare overseas. Should I just drop it? That's a question I get a lot. You cannot use Medicare Part B overseas. You can some of those Medicare supplement plans, they do have like overseas emergency type stuff up to a $50,000 emergency type, airlift or whatever. But Part B itself, no. However, I would think long and hard because if you're going to go overseas and you're never coming back, the political situation is not going to change. You're not going to get sick or homesick. Then yeah, it's your choice. Decline Part B. Save yourself the $185. But if you ever come back, then you're going to have to pay a penalty for the rest of your life. And what happens is, I see this all the time. People decline it, and then they come back because they're sick, and they're sick in July, and they're SOL until January, actually until February 1st, because they can't sign up for Part B until the general enrollment period, which is January, February, March. So they come back and to get treatment, but they've got no health insurance for July, August, September, October, November, until February 1st. So I would think long and hard about, yeah, about declining it. So dog park is goal. I'm collecting Social Security. My spouse is 64. Can he collect spousal benefits? Well, okay, I already answered that one. Let's see here. What happens to my husband's sis? My husband passed away in 2003. I remarried in 2006. Why can't I get my husband's Social Security who passed away? If you remarried after the age of 60, you can't surviving spouse benefits. But if you're remarried, then no. Yeah, that's unfortunately just the way the law is written. Let's see here. What about hiring people who are looking for work and are on SNAP benefits and housing to help out with Social Security Administration? They could start off answering questions. Ooh, that would be dangerous. Actually, for those people out there that are looking for a little bit extra money, in my office, we brought in more of these. There, there's a couple of there's AARP. It's a Department of Labor senior volunteer program. So if you're a senior, reach out to AARP. They're the ones that administer it. It's Department of Labor, and it's called a senior volunteer, where you can go to a local government office. And we used to bring a lot of them into my office, and they used to help out, administrative type stuff, processing the mail and stuff like that. We never have them answer questions because that's very, very dangerous. It takes a couple of years of training to answer questions. Um, and we were afraid to put him out of the lobby because interesting people come into the Social Security office. And then there's another program called NPWE, Non-Paid Work Experience. It's Social Security doesn't pay it, but that is administered by the Veterans Administration. So if you're a vet, it's kind of a work rehabilitation type of program. Reach out to your Veterans Affairs and say, hey, what's this NPWE, non-paid work experience? And you can actually, they pay you a little bit. Social Security doesn't pay you, but the VA pays you. And you go into the local Social Security office for like 6 months, and they can extend it, and, build your resume up a little bit. And um, it's great for the Social Security offices because they get, essentially help. And many of those I hired because they came in. You can do an interview, and anytime we have openings at Social Security, or again, I'm no longer with Social Security. I retired a couple of years ago, but anytime Social Security has an opening, they get hundreds of applications, and looking at somebody's application and just doing a quick interview, you never know. But if somebody comes in for 6 months or a year and works every single day, and you see how they, help out people and talk to other employees and help out customer service and stuff like that, and you can see if they're good or not. And so it was an excellent opportunity. And my office, we have a lot of these non-paid work experience people that are now full-time employees with Social Security, and they were awesome. So yes, please, please, please check that out. And if your local Social Security office does not have something like that, those senior volunteers and NPWE, then I would reach out to your politicians. And because my office, we brought in more of those volunteers than all other offices in the country combined. I guarantee it. We brought in dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens to help us with customer service. And again, so help with customer service. They weren't helping customers. They were doing the back end stuff, which allowed the people that were trained to help customer service. So that helps customer service indirectly. But unfortunately, managers throughout the country, it takes a lot of paperwork to bring these people in, background checks and all that kind of stuff. And people, unfortunately, some managers out there are just too lazy. So they need to get on the ball out there. provide the best customer service. Hello, Dr. Weir. I'm 100% disabled veteran. Does that qualify me to get Social Security now, or is there an age requirement? Being a disabled veteran does not, because in my office, we had many disabled veterans because the Veterans Administration defines disability differently. Social Security defines disability as the inability to work. So we had employees that were receiving, 40, 50, 60% disabled benefits, but they were working in our office, so they're not qualified. This guy named FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the guy who started Social Security, he would not be qualified for disability benefit because he was working a few presidential terms, and he had polio. But it's based on your inability to work. But I would definitely 100%, if your disability prevents you from working, please reach out to Social Security. The one benefit it will is your case will be expedited because it's easier. The Social Security Administration system talks to the VA system more easily, and therefore the Social Security Administration is able to get your medical records quicker. So usually veterans that have most of their medical records with the VA get a quicker response because it's an easier process. So please call up Social Security or go online. I've done 3 videos on tips, tricks, and secrets on how to file for disability and get approved, and or help you to get approved. So all right, let's see what else. Um, I'm Deborah. I'm 76 and only get $1,036 Social Security and have to work a part-time job to survive. Job is getting harder to do. If I quit, will my Social Security go up if it is taken out of my check? Um, all right. Yeah. So unfortunately, you're working and you're making money, but yeah, you have to pay FICA tax. You always pay FICA tax unless you're rich over 176,000. Then you don't pay FICA tax anymore. Social Security FICA tax. Um, so if you quit, yeah, you're 76, so you can make as much as you want. It doesn't affect your Social Security benefit negatively at all. So but if you're having a hard time working and surviving, but if you're only making 1,036, I would definitely watch the video I did on the 50 ways to help you survive there, living on Social Security. Um, if you've got no other income, no resources to speak of, I would I would start by calling Medicaid in your state, Department of Social Services or Department of Welfare, whatever they call in your state, and apply for Medicaid. And if they approve you at the upper levels, then they can get you what's called the Medicare Savings Program. Well, they will pay for your Part B premium, and that'll put $185 back into your bank account. Unfortunately, you can't get SSI because you're making over $943. But there's a lot of other programs out there, energy assistance. Yeah, please check out that video I did on living on Social Security alone, and just sit down there with your cup of coffee, and you might have to. I did one like that several months ago, and I talked really slow, and I did a terrible introduction, and people have complained ever since about my super long introduction. So this new one I just did, it's super super fast. So just put me on slow, so mute. My wife wishes she put me on mute, but thanks for doing these vids. I would like to buy you a cup of coffee. However, I don't do online payments. Can I get it addressed? Yeah, don't worry about it. Yeah, just next time you see someone in need, give them a few bucks and say, "Hey, this is from me and Ed. Thank you, appreciate it." Railroad Social Security. My husband died 6 years ago as a disabled spouse. I get You get Social Security from railroad. Will it get increased? Yeah, the railroad does COLA increases just like Social Security, and yeah, the railroad is a unique system. They've had a Social Security system, before Social Security in 1935, and so when Social Security came in, the railroad, who was like the powerful people at the time, Vanderbilt and the Anderson Cooper's family, Anderson Cooper mother's Gloria Vanderbilt. So they had a lot of money and power influence. So when Social Security Act started, railroad said, "Hey, we want a separate system." So the railroads got a separate system. So anytime you go into Social Security, and as soon as a Social Security person sees railroad involved, they have to call the railroad and say, "Hey, who has jurisdiction? You, us?" And then, yeah. But yeah, you should get COLA increases just like anything else from the railroad. So if you have any issues, you know that you have to call the Social Security Railroad Board, and they're all throughout the United States. I'm 62 on SSDI. Attempted to work 8 months off and on. Became unable unable to work. I received a letter from Social Security stating unable to work. If I go back to work, will I lose my Medicare and no longer have SSDI but Social Security? Um, so um, there is an exception in there. So you used your trial work period. So the trial work period, you can make as much money as you can to try to see if you can go back to work. And it's 9 months. It doesn't have to be consecutive months. But yeah, if you're able to go back to work, and then after that 9 months of trial work period, you move into what's called the extended period of eligibility, and your benefits will might stop. And if they do, what Social Security does is they assume that the reason you're able to go back to work, and they like for you to go back to work because you make more money and then you can pay more taxes, and then it helps the Social Security Disability Trust Fund. And so, they want you to go back to work. But they assume you're able to work because you have health care. So they often continue your Medicare for 96 months, even if your SSDI payments stopped. But I would reach out to Social Security and double check on your particular situation. I don't know if were receiving disability before and you stopped, and whatever the case may be. So if you get it for that 96 months, then you're in the gold, because your regular Medicare is going to start at 65 anyway in a few years. So yeah, definitely try it out. Again, call Social Security and double check in your particular situation. Um, You'll probably have to talk if you call Social Security, the regular general line, they're probably not gonna help you. You need to speak to an expert, what's called a Title II claims specialist, Title II of the Social Security Act. But in your particular case, I would probably talk to what's called an AWIC, an Area Work Incentives Coordinator, AWIC, AWIC. And they have them in all areas throughout the country, and say, hey, you can actually look it up. Go on and just type in SSA AWIC, and it'll give you a list of the AWICs throughout the country. And they're supposed to be experts in all things work incentives like this. And I would probably defer, I would reach out to them rather than just calling the 800 number generally. So there's that. All right. Wow. I'm over an hour here, and I lost my voice, and I think that's going to do it for today. But I am going to be back over and over and over again until I answer as many questions as I possibly can. So I'll be back again tomorrow. I'll pick up another topic, whatever topic I got tomorrow. I'll talk about that for 5, 10, 15 minutes, and I'll use the rest of the hour to answer all your questions.